Okay. I'm getting a bit sick of this talking about myself, but I'll try and find some funny bits. Where were we before? Yeah. Rose turned a key. We went down a corridor and the floor creaked, although we took long, soft steps. And she opened up her room. It was cheap and it was cold, with lino on the floor, linoleum, and a single bed that squeaked when I sat on the edge. I thought, oh, can't make love on that. Dragon lady landlord will hear us. There was perfume on a dressing table. So I took off my shoes and sprinkled some on my socks. I noticed my socks had a hole in the toe. So I wasn't sure if my feet were very clean, so I kept my socks on and dripped some on them too. And Rose returned from outside and put a small elderly terrier dog on the bed. She said, "He's Wowzer, my little darling." Under the bed was a bucket. She said, "If you want to pee during the night, do it in this. Promise you won't go out to the dunny, because it makes too much noise, okay? And the landlady will hear it." I swore I would not, and took off my jeans and folded them neatly. "We better get some sleep," she undressed. I didn't look, but when she crawled into bed, I noticed she had on a slip. It was the first time I'd been under the sheets with a woman other than my mum. The dog settled between Rose and me down by our legs, but outside the bedclothes. Laying on my back, I could feel Rose's warmth and a nice scent, although it was probably my sprinkled socks that smelt the best. She switched off the light. Every movement made the bed squeak, so I kept still. I hoped she'd snuggle up to me, but she didn't, and after a while I heard that she was asleep. I turned to face her, careful not to squeak the springs, and put my face next to hers, aware of the infinitesimal distance between us. It was wonderful to be so close to a female, even if she wasn't aware of me. Despite my idealism and romanticism, I became aroused. I thought, if she wakes up and feels my stiffy rearing up against her satin skin, she'll get the wrong idea of my body language. So I turned over and I faced the other wall. Later I awoke and snuggled close, and she rolled towards me and we touched, but she was still way asleep. And I learned what Archdeacon Gooden used to tell the Church of England Boys Club about control over desires of the flesh. So I became a yogi master of blood flow control, and I slept. Sounds of slurping woke me up. The terrier was under the sheet and halfway down the bed. It was lapping and licking at something. Slurp, lick, slurp, suck, slurp. For 5 minutes it went on. I thought, gee, Rose couldn't be asleep through all that action. She had to be awake. Now, I'd read a book once called The Importance of Living, I think, or was it The Importance of Loving? It was one of the two. It had a chapter on the art of loving. So I was aware that nothing about the body of a loved one should be considered dirty. And I debated asking if I could give her instead of Wowzer, until I thought about the dog microbes that might be germinating down in the rose garden. If I caught some infection while living rough, it would be hard for me to get better. So I didn't embarrass the lady by letting her know I'd heard. I tried to sleep, but it was hard with the sound effects. Next thing I know, I'm awake and the afternoon sun through the Venetian blinds is waking me up, and Rose was still asleep, even though the sun was on her face. So I lay back and stared at the decorated plaster ceiling until I heard slurp, suck, slurp, lick, slurp again. And I raised the sheet and took a peek. The dog was licking at himself. That was the sound. That was the sound I'd heard in the night, and my imagination supplied the rest. Oh, my wicked scenario making that I should conjure an image of debauchery between an innocent doggy and a pure maid. Shame on me. Rose woke up and said she had a headache and said it was time I left. So I didn't write down her address, as I thought I might run into her again at the wine bar one day, but I passed by the wine bar a couple of times and never found her. She would never know just how much that skinny white kid had loved her that night. After 2 hungry winter weeks, I knocked on Granny's door and admitted I was broke and jobless. She let me in, and I became a salesman at John Martin's department store in the city. And then after a week, I arranged for Joe and Laurie, my pals, to come in, and I'd sell them 2 classy suits. Instead of paying, they'd pretend to have an account with the store. And I'd arrange credit and sign the docket myself, saying that I'd seen their account card, and wrap up the suits. And then I was beaten up by 2 teenagers at Adelaide railway station one afternoon. They must have thought I was a poof, sitting there because I was reading a book. You know, that's the sort of thing that poofs do, isn't it? John Martin's store fired me because my face was swollen and bruised. You'll scare the customers, I was told. When my face healed, the posh Grosvenor Hotel hired me as a bellboy. In my classy uniform, I was hot stuff. The pay was good, plus great tips. And I tried romancing any teenage girl guests, but I was not successful. I got to stop this for a while because I got to edit this. There's a 12-year-old lived down the street who thought I was a real crim. He bought me some money he stole from his parents and asked me to take him to the races and put bets on for him, and I did. Anyway, the man at the milk bar, Pop Gibbs, heard about it and threatened to tell the kid's parents. And the kid cried when I told him I couldn't hang out with him anymore. And then a big English guy, a big pommy, asked me to put bets on for him. This was before totalisated off-course betting. And he gave me the dough every Saturday, and I'd go to the races and put it on. He usually lost. A month later, he gave me £20, which was a fair bet, and told me, back Wolf Howe, but only if you get odds of 5 to 1. I studied the form and I got creative, and I thought, Wolf Howe ain't got a chance in hell. It's putting money down the drain. I'll keep his dough and pretend I backed it. Of course it won, so I owed the big pommy 120 quid. That was about 6 weeks' wages back then. I should have paid him $5 a week, but I couldn't face him. I'm sure he would have forgiven me, but I couldn't face him. So I told Granny I was taking a vacation, and I got on the Melbourne Express and I headed interstate. In Melbourne, on the Melbourne Cup Day, I won a massive £50 on a cup double with a horse, Even Stevens. Even Stevens was the name of the horse. But that amount equaled the cost of 500 pints of beer would cost these days. And I'd only backed the horse because the jockey's name began with a C, like mine. I had that habit all my life of doing things, of latching on to characters because their name began with a C. Oh, fuck, I should have seen a psychiatrist that day too. Anyway, with all that dough, I got a train to Sydney. And I stayed in classy hotels. Well, to me, they were classy. They were pretty cheap, actually, but I thought I was a Damon Runyon character until the dough ran out. You know, I was still 17 years old. The dough ran out and I was starving. Now, I didn't know about I didn't know where Sydney's free soup kitchens were. There were only 3 of them in those days, and all they gave you was soup and bread. So they weren't that good. But I didn't want to write home to my grandparents in Adelaide and bullshit that I had a job and could they send me $10 until payday. So I got a job pushing barriers. I went down to the water board, and I got a job pushing wheelbarrows of wet cement up planks and digging until the shovel gave me blisters. I was a skinny kid, so I wanted the other workers to see that my skinny self could handle the job. But after the first day, they said to me, "Slow down, you bastard. You're showing us up." And I slowed down and I became an excellent bludger. Being a loner, it was a matter of time until I discovered the mystic. Long before reading Carlos Castaneda and Lobsang Rampa, I invented my own ritual magic. When I'd done something that I did not like, that did not fit my self-image, I'd draw a magical line across a footpath, make my mind blank to symbolise being newly born. And I'd step across that line. Any past trauma was labelled dues paid, D-U-E-S, dues paid, and buried in my subconscious. Then I'd step across the line, a braver and more interesting person. Well, I had 20 quid, and I think the day I quit working on the water board, I must have had $70. So I hitched up to Taree on the Manning River. I just wanted to hitchhike and get away from town, you know. I just wanted to travel. And then I bought a bucket. When I got to Taree on the Manning River, I bought a bucket to protect my new sleeping bag and a transistor radio that I had to protect it from the water. And I breaststroked across the river and onto a little motorboat that was moored there. And I undid the canvas and I slid in and then put the canvas back. And I said, "No one will know I'm here." And I lay on the bottom of the boat with my sleeping bag, and I thought to myself, nobody will know I'm here. If I needed to pee, I used a tin can and then tipped it over the side. Ravenous mosquitoes sensed my warm blood from 100 metres away, so I was very quick. And I spent all night swatting mosquitoes and the boat was cramped and hot, but I pretended I was in Louisiana, a teenage Huck Finn surrounded by alligators. Or I pretended I was an escapee from a chain gang. At night, under a canopy of stars, I'd listen to pop music like Duke, 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 Duke of Earl, Duke, Duke, Duke of Earl, Duke, Duke, Duke of Dum. Yeah, Duke of Earl, I love that song, on my trusty transistor radio. And I was laying there rocked by the river, and I mused, I'm having a real adventure. But after 2 days, I got hungry and headed for shore. And then a few rides got me to a town called Macksville, Macksville, where a cop questioned me. But finding that I was not a wanted outlaw, he let me camp on the riverbank. After 3 nights sleeping in the wooden grandstands of small towns, I made it to Brisbane in Queensland and had enough dough left. Where did I get that dough from? Oh yeah, I hadn't that dough from before. I had enough dough left for 4 days at the People's Palace Hotel. Every capital city had a People's Palace Hotel. They were run by the Salvation Army, but they were still a classy hotel, but cheap, and patronised by conservative types, farmers visiting town and recovering nutcases and enigmatic lost souls like me. We roamed the stark hallways and fed coin-operated TVs in empty communal lounge rooms. Some levels were for women only, and sad-faced men in Salvation Army uniforms dusted "No alcohol allowed" signs. Freshly bathed, naked between cotton sheets, I lay secure and warm, knowing that tomorrow, neutral fate, I considered neutral fate an actual entity. And I knew that neutral fate would throw something my way. Hopefully it would be a girlfriend. Okay, that's all for now. I didn't mean to do this one, because sometimes I'm watching YouTube and all these fucking life stories you hear quite often are just guys ego tripping. And I'm probably doing a bit of that too. But it's interesting to some people, so I shouldn't feel guilty. All right, that's all for now.